I've lived most of my life far from these North Carolina mountains. Lahore, Nairobi, Dhaka, Peshawar, Karachi, Kabul, Colombo, some of the world's largest, most chaotic cities. But this is my spiritual home, the Ridge House, 160 years old. My parents bought it in 1960 as a summer home. Daniel Boone's brother's hearthstone was placed at the entrance by his descendants. I come from Moravian heritage, a tradition of ecumenical respect, spiritual depth, and service across cultures. My father's family understood that belief could coexist with genuine engagement with different faiths and peoples. That faith and understanding serve each other. That development should respect cultures, not erase them, and from a Southern legacy that taught me people and places matter. That lineage, that commitment to understanding different peoples respectfully, runs through everything I do. The distance between these mountains and the world's largest cities taught me everything I understand about power, institutions, and how societies actually function. So how did a kid like me end up implementing infrastructure projects around the world? That's what this video is about. My father had a scholarship to Duke during the Depression, but had to leave in order to help his family survive. The women in my mother's family had graduated from college from the early 1900s. I chose to study at Duke University as an undergraduate because it was near home in Raleigh, and I could study Hindi there. Duke had South Asia and Islamic studies centers, so my study expanded to include Persian, the Islamic world, and Urdu before I graduated cum laude in history, political science, and comparative area studies, South and West Asia. My professors opened up new, multifaceted, and unlimited worlds for my mind. But I wasn't studying international development or urban planning yet. That came later. Duke taught me how to think critically, how to analyze systems, how to question assumptions. By the time I left Duke, my parents had passed away, and I was responsible for myself and the family legacy. I won a one-year fellowship from Berkeley to continue my Urdu study in Lahore and live with a local Punjabi family. While there, I traveled extensively throughout Pakistan, mostly on my own, and experienced great classic adventure and hospitality there. It was there that I first experienced the reality of global urbanization and imagined I might get the chance to work to address the challenges that cities face. After Duke and Lahore, I had the opportunity to combine my interests by going to the University of Pennsylvania for graduate school. Penn is the oldest city planning program in the U.S. By coincidence, it also has South Asia and Middle East centers. I was awarded U.S. government National Resource Fellowships at Penn, highly competitive fellowships that required me to continue my study of Hindi, Urdu, Farsi, and Dari, combined with city planning and area studies. During the summer of my year there, I returned to northern Pakistan, and the next year I won another fellowship from Berkeley that gave me the opportunity to conduct independent research in land use and transportation at the Indian Institute of Technology in Kanpur, India. That fellowship, money, the institutional support, encouraged me to continue my area studies along with my professional training. Suddenly, I wasn't just studying theory. I was preparing to actually work internationally and interact with all levels of people in other cultures. To understand how institutions function or fail in radically different contexts. In Kanpur, I was able to work on new subjects through field work and census analysis in Hindi. If you're going to really understand how systems operate, you have to be able to work independently, as well as with colleagues and ordinary local people. When I returned to Penn and graduated with distinction, I imagined that I might work in U.S. companies, academia, international organizations, or maybe the U.S. government. But it wasn't that easy, and not at all in any normal path that I had imagined. After graduation from Penn, My friend in Hunza told me that it was suddenly possible to travel from northern Pakistan to the historic city of Kashgar in Xinjiang, China, over the Karakoram Highway and the Khunjarab Pass. I couldn't turn that down. After that great adventure, I returned home to Grandfather Mountain and suddenly had the idea to be a candidate for state office while looking for my first professional job. I came close, but I didn't win. More on that in another episode. But I met a lot of people. Getting a professional job, especially without the right connections, has always been hard. Someone I met in my campaign gave me a contact, and I started a technical job in my field of transportation with an engineering company in Washington, D.C. The senior vice president from the head office decided that I had the right profile to be his director for international marketing. And as a result, one day I met a client from Pakistan who, within a few minutes of an Urdu conversation, told me that his project needed me. Within a short time, I was working in Islamabad, studying the national transportation system, traveling all over the country, and having a great time, except for when my project car was stolen. I ended up staying on for 4 years, working on several projects in Peshawar, Lahore, Islamabad, Karachi, all the small towns in Sri Lanka, up into the mountains near Afghanistan, some places where the level of development was at the very most basic. Then came the project that really gave me the unique scope to do something substantial and long-lasting. In the heartland of India, Mirzapur, Uttar Pradesh, full-time for 5 years. And I learned something that the textbooks never taught me. Infrastructure projects are only partly about the actual infrastructure, and not always about technical issues. They're ultimately about power and resources, but they're equally about design, strategy, time frame, and implementation. Who gets water and who doesn't? Whose neighborhood gets roads and whose doesn't? Which communities get connected to opportunity and which remain isolated? And finally, who pays how much? And are the benefits from the infrastructure to the users greater than the cost to the public? Every planning decision is a political and financial decision, even when it's dressed up as technical expertise. And decisions are only based on technical issues if the technical criteria have been clearly and accurately defined, and if decision makers are bound by transparent evaluation of those criteria. Surprisingly, it is not at all common for both criteria to be present and combined, even in our beloved United States. I watched how local elites, civil servants, and business interests structured projects to benefit themselves, and how often this was facilitated by funding agencies, how international consultants often produce work that was only valid and useful within a narrow and not always implementable context, how complexity and technical concepts were used to exclude not only ordinary people from decisions, but also to sideline other stakeholders and professionals. I saw the same pattern everywhere. Pakistan, then Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, later Tanzania, Kenya, South Sudan, even brief stints in Nigeria, Iraq, and Lebanon, and surprisingly, even in my own United States. And in most cases, it seemed that only a few marginal people cared. Often, those were co-opted to develop compatible interests rather than to hold firm to the interests of the broader public. Different languages, different cultures, radically different histories, but the mechanisms of resources and power, remarkably consistent. The administrative state, elite capture of institutions, power and intimidation through technical complexity, the systematic exclusion of democratic input, appropriate standards and transparency. I was seeing not only the function of technical analysis or the operation of political economy, but the practical function of public administration and private interests. And I was seeing it over and over again across wildly different contexts. I was seeing the actual operation of political economy, not the sanitized version you get in academic journals. And I was seeing something else. Places where institutions worked, where communities actually managed their own development effectively, where transparency existed, where accountability was real. Those places were rare, but they existed, and they followed certain patterns. So I kept working, kept watching patterns, and I kept my Moravian heritage close. That commitment to respect, to understanding, to believing that justice and faith matter in practical work. I wasn't cynical about it. I genuinely believed that understanding how institutions could function better, how communities could have more agency and ownership over their own development, that mattered. I designed the National Agricultural Information System in Afghanistan. I worked on the Port of Karachi Master Plan. I managed national infrastructure programs. I implemented water systems, sanitation infrastructure, urban planning. I assessed transportation systems. And while in the United States during COVID, I managed an electoral redistricting plan that was successfully implemented in the last election. And each time, I'd see the same truth. Institutional capacity isn't something you give people through training programs or consultant reports. Institutional capacity comes from communities actually doing, actually deciding, actually facing consequences. I'd also travel differently than most consultants. I'd cycle on French bikes through regions I was analyzing and spent lots of times in local markets. I learned to respect the places I worked in, not just extract data from them. I read history deeply. I studied ethnology and how places shape culture and power. I came to understand that geopolitical analysis isn't something you do from a desk. It's something you do by engaging respectfully with real people in real places. That's when I decided that the patterns I was seeing in other countries applied directly to American institutions too. Same mechanisms of elite control, complexity that excludes participation, expertise weaponized against public input, institutions captured by concentrated interests, accountability mechanisms made deliberately ineffective. The difference is sophistication, not structure. American governance is often the same as that in other countries, but with better public relations. That insight that the same patterns work everywhere is what made me start writing. I wrote Trapped by History first, an analysis of American democracy, of how American democracy got captured, how the middle class got dismantled, how political elite rule evolved from hereditary to meritocratic to globalist. I wrote The Millennial Metropolis, Power Cities in the Age of Trump, to link the overview of U.S. political economy with my professional city planning experience and global urbanization. Then Trumped by History, explaining why Donald Trump isn't an aberration, but an inevitable response to elite capture and what might be the road ahead. And most recently, the crisis of nationality, national identity, and the social contract in the 21st century, to explore the foundation and nature of governance and rights in our new era. But here's what I want to be clear about. I didn't write these books cynically. I wrote them because I genuinely believed, and still believe, that understanding how institutions fail is the first step to understanding how they could work better. That justice matters, that communities deserve agency over their own lives, that respect for diverse peoples isn't weakness, it's moral foundation for real development and real democracy. That's Moravian heritage talking. That's Southern roots. That's faith running throughout the analysis. The Ridge House, 160 years of history. The Daniel Boone family heritage, my parents' stewardship, my wife's memory. I'm documenting this integrated life, professional expertise grounded in personal values, geopolitical analysis that respects human dignity, development work that serves justice. That's why I'm creating this channel, to show that you can spend 30 years implementing infrastructure projects in the world's most complex places and still believe in faith, still be grounded in heritage, still celebrate home, still appreciate beauty and equality. That combination, rigor plus values, expertise plus respect, analysis plus legacy and faith. That's what I offer. My next videos, my experience in other countries and what patterns I found there that reveal themselves in the ongoing American transformation. For the full analysis, visit htscottgibbons.com. Thanks for watching.